Let's link up with Krista on the Fix. She's a wellness coach with a focus on mental well-being and physical strength.
All right, I'm Sabrina Sarabella. I'm a clinical nutritionist, personal trainer, and fitness instructor. I call myself a wellness expert because I am. I've been in this
Love it. Wellness expert. Yeah.
I've been in the industry over 20 years. I'm a business coach that helps online entrepreneurs, fitness business people try to build their business to grow their income and they can work less hours and make more money in less time. Because as a fitness professional, wellness professional, we are in that hustle, that time for money, and we're cannot be having that anymore. So we need to make more money. We can service more people when we're on the online space and growing our business.
I love it. I love it already. Like literally that's such the key thing that I try to tell people who are just getting started in this world. And I'm sure you share it with them too. It's like you are trading time for money and you can never get your time back. You can always make more money, but you can't get your time back. And it's so hard to wrap your head around that when you're afraid that people are going to reject you for the prices that you charge, right?
There's so much you can do in this industry. And I say, like, we get into the health and wellness field because we really want to help people.
Yeah.
You can help more people if you do these things I teach you. You can reach
Love it.
people and all these things. Yeah.
Love it. Well, we will make sure, as I do have an audience of, fellow online coaches and just people in the fitness space in general, we will be sure to link all of your info down in the show notes so we can tell everybody where to find you and take advantage of lots of the good tips that you can offer well outside of this conversation today. So great. Second question, what is your go-to caffeine order? And some people, if they're like really passionate about the topic, they like to tell me what they brew at home. And then maybe if they have like a special thing that they drink if they're actually going to go to the coffee shop, but you can share as much as or as little as you'd like.
Okay. So I'm not a huge coffee drinker, but
It's
I
all
do
right.
love it. So I have two things. So when it's warm outside, when it's hot outside, no, it's cold outside. Sorry. I have a hot order. And this is in my local store, I can give them a shout out, Hudson Coffee in Hoboken. I order a mocha latte with oat milk.
Ooh, love it already. Sounds
Any
delish.
of that, like how it's only like pure mocha. They not sugar added. They mix it in with the oat milk and they put a little coffee in it or espresso.
Like espresso shot. Yeah.
It's amazing.
I got to go there. I'm on a mission to go to all the hot coffee spots in Jersey. So that's on my list.
I definitely want. And then my favorite, and if you're a Monmouth County girl, you know, Rook Coffee.
Knew you were going to say it. Of course. Had to do it.
Their iced New Orleans with chocolate milk is my favorite.
So good. I'm at a tie. Most of my household, like my parents and brothers, love the New Orleans. It's a toss up for me. I love the mocha. But it's interesting to what you just said about Hudson Coffee. It's not loaded all with sugar. The really cool thing about Rook, and I think it's so unique, and I've had coffee like all across the East Coast between Charlotte, Jersey. Like every time I drive between the two states, I stop lots of places. I've never found a coffee shop that brews it with the flavor the way that Rook does.
I mean, I can't say enough about Rook. It is my favorite thing. The founder went to college with me.
Oh, wait, did you go to University of Delaware?
I did.
My brother and dad went there. So cool. Love it. Fellow blue hen. There we go. Like you even more.
I know, the blue hen in the White House now, which is very
exciting. I know.
Yeah, so Rook, I mean, it's my favorite. They make it the best there. Whenever I'm on county, it's my first stop to stop there.
Let's see. Where should we begin? I guess first, let's walk through your transition, right? Of how you started in a very traditional group fitness and personal training setting. So tell me about your process of how you went from a very classic box gym model to what it is that you do today.
Yeah, so I started in wellness or fitness. I was my first instructor at 18 years old. My mom was really big into fitness, so we belonged to, I don't know if you know, the Atlanta Club down the Jersey Shore, and she took me there.
Of course. It's like the only gym around.
I know, right? And
yeah, still today. Yeah.
Totally. We had a personal trainer we loved, and like she was a group fitness instructor, and it was amazing. And I was like, I want to do this. So I got certified. I actually started before I was even certified, I would start personal training my mom's friends, started my own business when I was very young. My parents both have their own business, so I was always very entrepreneurial. And I always wanted to start my own business right out of college. And my parents said, you need to work for a company first, learn some ropes, and then you can start your own stuff. So that's what I did. I went to school for exercise and science. after school, I worked for a large corporate gym, big box gym, and that was very popular back then, right? It was before the boutique studio started. I managed for personal trainers how to build their business. And then from there, I managed group fitness instructors. So before the whole boutique fitness trend happened, our company basically built these mind body studios and spin studios, and basically said to us, like, now figure out how to make money on these studios. This is
Okay. Like, and the studios were inside of these clubs, right?
they
Okay.
were like a second studio. They called them mind body studios. They're more like the, I guess more wealthier areas.
Sure.
In the city, we had just a plain spin studio again before like
Before Soul Cycle. Yeah.
stuff on 76 and First. It was our own little spin annex, we called it. We just ran cycle classes in across the street from a regular gym.
Wow.
So yeah, our CEO was like, figure out how to make money on this. And so me and my coworkers, we basically started what I say, like a lot of the boutique fitness trends. We call them small group training classes. We charge them extra. So now was all this revenue that the gym actually now added on to their revenue streams of just personal training, because they didn't know you can make money on group fitness.
Right.
So that was all that kind of stuff. So I did that for about 10 years. And then.
And how many classes were you teaching at the time in terms of in addition to balancing, managing all these trainers? Because I imagine that will become important later when we talk about the transition and like the time that's involved.
10 to 15.
Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah.
We would do morning before, and I love to teach, but again, and I also was young. I was in my 20s. It was
right.
like,
you can do it.
Everything.
Yeah.
Yes. Taught a bunch of classes, managed all kinds of things like that. So it definitely became a lot. I remember one time I was teaching a triple on like a Tuesday night, and I came home and I talked to my mom. I was like, I don't think I can do this anymore. I'm like exhausted. Like it's so much like working.
And the burnout is so quick when it's to that extent.
Things happen at once. It was like I was doing all the stuff. Corporate kind of changed its structure a little bit. My boss had kind of left. And then my father had gotten sick and he had his own company. So it was kind of just like a perfect storm of like, I was like, I needed to just leave. And so I ended up going back to grad school to be a nutritionist. I still taught classes. Cool. I worked for my father's company and marketing. Nice. But I also discovered that I had severe adrenal fatigue.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I don't know what caused what first, right? But again, it was a perfect storm of all this stuff.
Yeah. And a lot of people go with that undiagnosed because they just think they're really tired.
Right. And it wasn't really, again, this was 2009 or 8.
That wasn't like a common term that people were throwing around.
No one knew. And I lucky enough to find a nutritionist that I found somehow. And what happened was she was like, I feel like you have like adrenal fatigue and I think you have like mercury toxicity.
Oh, shit.
What? So I ended up getting tested for it and I had severe mercury toxicity.
Really?
And like the doctor that figured it out was like, I've never seen levels this high. And I just was like,
so did they figure out where it was coming from? Did you eat a lot of sushi? Because I know that can play a factor.
Right. So I don't exactly know how. I grew up in Staten Island when I was young. So
okay.
Not that like then it's, a dump, right?
Near some garbage. For those of you who are listening to this and don't know.
A big dump there. So that was it. I was actually really sick as a child, like ear infections, all that kind of stuff from living there.
Wow. Really interesting.
Yeah, my parents took me out of there and I was definitely better. And then I started eating sushi when I was 5 years old.
Oh shit, girl.
I also have, I had mercury fillings in my teeth, like which most people do. So, and I think like I was teaching so many classes. Also, that was like the cardio trend, right? I was doing hours of cardio a day.
Yeah, you were teaching a lot of spin classes too.
Spin classes,
you were working out while you were teaching. Exactly. Yeah.
Just everything. And then, that was like the, work out more kind of thing. And I was just like, I was gaining weight. I was getting puffy. I was like, I'm exhausted. I can't get out of bed. Like, what is going on? So I finally figured that out. Many, many doctors, for years trying to figure this out. I still have some issues with it, everything like that too. And then, that's why I was like, I can't work this many hours anymore. I cannot physically teach this many hours. And I found a couple of doctors that really knew what they were talking about and really helped me. So after that, I found a business coach that was started online programs. And I was like, I want to figure out what you're doing. And this was like 2012, 2013. I just graduated grad school. Instagram was very, very, probably very new then even.
So it was still pretty website based, I imagine, right?
Exactly. Facebook
and like 4-week guides that you printed out the PDFs, like that kind of shit.
That's exactly what it was. So my first program was called 4-Week Jumpstart.
Nice.
4-week program. And it was amazing because I charged $99 for it. I gave them printable workouts. I gave them printable meal plans. I had a Facebook group, and my first time I got 10 people. So I made $1,000, right? My first time. And I was like, I can teach, I'm teaching all these classes and I'm not making this much money. Like,
Right.
what
You're like, hello.
new world here. So I started running these over and over again. I was still teaching again. I still love being with people. I still taught. I cut back on my classes though. I started teaching a lot of nutrition, everything. So I graduated grad school for nutrition and put it all together. And then from there, I was doing that for a few years. Then people kept asking me like, how are you doing this? Like, what are you doing online? And then, so I was like, oh, so I just started kind of helping them. And then I was like, I'm going to parlay this into making money and being a coach, because I basically was coaching fitness wellness professionals for over a decade in corporate. And now it's like, oh, I'm just doing it on my own. So that's when I started to coach other people. And I was also helping online stuff, but also helping people build studios. Like if they were doing their own Pilates studios, I did a couple of those. I've actually stopped that the last year, obviously, because of COVID, but that'll boom again. But just started doing business coaching like that. And I've been doing it for about 7 years now.
That's amazing. So cool. I love hearing that. And, I think it's really important that you brought up a lot of the physical changes that you're experiencing and the negative physical consequences. And that leads me to ask you this question first is, how do you feel about the idea that in the fitness industry, because we do have to hustle and grind and push so much to try to make money and it be like a very much a 24/7 service oriented type job, that it always seems to come at the expense of your own health?
I think that it doesn't have to be like that, right? It doesn't
Right.
have to be at the expense of yourself. And I think that we kind of almost have to like learn our lesson, and hopefully people that are new in the industry can learn it from everyone that's
From
already
us.
done that.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to be hustling 24/7 to make money. Like there are smarter ways now. There are better ways. Like your health should not be put on the back burner for helping other people with their health. Like you have to be the example. It's just like, same thing. You have to fill your cup first before you can help anybody else. There were days like when in those times that I was so tired that I was like, I don't want to teach today. Like I hate this. Why am I doing this? And that's not fair to the person that paid to come to class. I'm like,
Right.
they want someone that's energetic and happy to be there. So
Mhm.
I know now that I need to take care of myself first in order to help other people. And now like I'm so much more, I do a lot of virtual teaching now, not a
Cool.
lot, I do a couple because I turn my in-person people into virtual platform. I teach 2 to 3 times a week max. I love going there every day. I love seeing my woman there. I'm so happy to be there. And it's just such a change of being like dreading going to something I want to work with. I
Right.
love my job passionately. Love it.
Yeah. And like, it was really personally, I had such a hard time coming to terms with the fact that I wasn't happy doing it because I left a job I hated to do it. And like, I knew I loved the act of coaching and I loved playing that role in people's lives, and I still do. But it was just like the means by which I was going about doing it, which the standard of what was being set was just totally unrealistic. And I'm not sure, like, how do you see the future of you mentioned that you were doing a little consulting with in-person studios, which is obviously not happening right now, but from your perspective as somebody who's lived through this and seen this transition and then experienced it, what is your take on the future of boutique fitness in particular? Maybe take that question sort of in the realm of, what do you think will separate a gym as one that survives and is very successful and still operates out of brick and mortar versus one that either like completely flops or is just kind of like doing okay and doesn't really make ends meet?
Yeah. So 2 things I see fitness going. It is definitely, I call it the year of the independent fit pro. So if you are out there, and we live on the East Coast, we live in New Jersey or New York, I get paid a lot of money to teach classes, and I always did. When I hear people get paid in other places, I'm like, you're doing what? For what?
I know, it's crazy. It's so crazy. Yeah.
So I want to, like, in a gym, they tell you how much you make.
Right.
Being online, you make as much money as you want to make. And now we figure it out that you don't have to ever depend on a gym ever again if you don't want to, right? You can do your own thing. So one part is, as a fitness professional, wellness professional, the sky's the limit now, because now we just proved that we don't need you.
Yeah.
For in-person to survive, a lot of boutique, they have got to be a community-based place. It has got to be someplace that involves people that you want to go to, that has other things than just the classes. It has challenges, accountability, it has nutrition, it has other things in it. It can't just be like show up for a class and leave, because you
Right.
can do it online. And I'd rather,
Mhm.
I don't have to commute to you, and I can do
Right.
it.
It's less convenient. Yeah.
So it has to have a really strong community base. And I think they will thrive. I think people are definitely still going to want to do in person.
Totally. I mean, look, I'm going in that direction. Like,
Right.
I'm going to sit here and tell you they're going to survive because that's
Yeah.
what I want to do. Right. Yeah.
It's going to be both, right? It's going to be, and I think too, is like, you know, we saw the Peloton, all
Mm-hmm.
those kind of things, but I think those are not going to be, people are going to realize like there's no personalization there, right?
I know. That's where I think that's actually where I think, and I'm glad you brought up this community point, because I think for as much as you want to create community, you don't want to market yourself on that as like a value prop of your company, because that's going to become a baseline. So it's like everyone's going to have that. It's like, what's going to set your company apart? It's going to be those personal touches and that sort of thing, because like, well, I do think I think right now Peloton is running, and I'm curious your perspective, a lot on convenience, because I have had a lot of feedback from clients who have it that they're actually more interested in the fact that like they can do a 15-minute ride. So, or something for like 10 minutes. So like they're more inclined that if they have a weird gap, like most of my clients are younger moms with small children. So it may be like a weird gap where they're napping and they have 20 minutes and they like, you know, need to clean up the kitchen and throw in some laundry. Like that tends to take precedence, but they can hop on and work out for 20 minutes versus like you said, of course, there's no 15-minute commute either way. They don't have to put anyone in the car, like Of course, that's going to help. But I do think that there is going to be just like, I'm very curious to see how, as the community inside Peloton grows, like, you know, I remember when it first became popular, people would be like, oh, like the instructor like saw my, like randomly read my name and shouted me out. There's no way they're still doing that with the thousands of people that are logging into a class. And interestingly, would love to know what you think about this. I heard on someone else's podcast that I was listening to today, apparently, and this might have been from a couple months ago, but apparently Peloton's most used classes are the archived ones, not the live ones. Do you think that's purely a convenience thing?
Yeah, totally. I think that the whole thing is like, right, it was like kind of trendy and cool.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, oh, now I can't go to a gym, so I have to get something in my house.
Right.
It was just like the trendy thing to get. So I think that was it. I do think it's 100% convenience, right? And I do know that it is the archive classes, not the live classes that are people doing.
Mm-hmm.
I've also heard some things about instructors, right? Like, you know, I managed instructors for a decade, or
yeah,
I know how diva they can be.
Oh,
Right?
please.
So,
you could do a whole podcast just about that. I actually do want to ask some questions on that.
Stories I could tell.
Yeah.
But also like that gets old after a while too, right? Like, I don't need you to perform on your stage. Like it's about me. And
Correct.
I think that that's a boutique studio. That's a smaller independent fit pros. Like I care about you and you coming into class. It's not about me. Making sure that you have a good workout.
Right.
I'm not talking the whole class about myself. And I'm also, this is my opinion. I know people are very against me. I don't want you to preach to me during class.
Okay. That's not your vibe.
Right.
So like what kind of, like, what do you want? Like what do you, when you say like, you don't want people to preach, what don't you like? I guess give me two comparisons. Cause I know what you're talking about, but for the average listener,
I think a lot of, I think it has become like a little bit of a show now, right? Mm-hmm. So a lot of instructors want to get up there and people are going to hate me for this. I probably.
It's okay. You're being honest. This is your platform. Go for it.
Sermon and, you know, about like, I don't know, about whatever they do, whatever, like better in life or that. I just want to work out. Like I do my own personal development stuff. Like I just want you to give me a really tough workout. I want to be focused on like, I love music. Like I want to be focused on the music. I want to have like, I want to get a good sweat or a good workout. And then I want to be done with it. You know, like I don't need the extras that. And I think like, again, the same thing, like all those big platforms, like it's not individualized, right? When you're not held accountable, like no one's caring if you show up or not. No one's being like,
right.
When you have a personal trainer or something like that, it's like, did you show up where are you? What are you doing? What happened? Right. So,
yeah. And if it's a small boutique studio where the owner's super involved, they will reach out to you and be like, hey, you haven't come to class. Or even if the owner is semi-removed, then the coach, who is the one that's like always teaching every day at 6 a.m. If they don't see you, they're going to send you, if they're a good coach, they're going to send you a message, be like, hey, is everything okay?
Yeah. I think that is what's going to make people succeed and smaller places succeed more.
Mm-hmm. No, I totally agree. I think that's so true. So what do you think is like two things? Number one hurdle for coaches in getting started online, and once they kind of have gotten established with the setup of like they have their business account, they have their first guides available, like they have a little bit going on, what do you think is then the differentiator of someone who can like really start to see steady income versus somebody who it's a little bit sporadic? Because I think in the beginning, it's just one of those things that just tends to start slow.
Yeah, any business tends to start slow, right? That's how business
Yeah.
is, like that. So it takes work. And a couple of things, right? People fail because they're not committed. They're not consistent, right? A lot of, again, people are like, oh, I'm going to do this. I see this all the time with like new Instagram accounts or new podcasts or whatever it is. And they put all this stuff into it and it becomes hard. It's work, right? Like
It's so much work. Yeah. People like warned me about, they said like, don't start the podcast until you're sure it's something you want to do. I went to school for journalism. So like, I love this. I could honestly, like if you told me tomorrow that I could make all my money off of podcasting, like I would do it, but it's a ton of work. Like I literally just said to my attorney on the phone this morning, cause he was one of the ones who warned me about it. He was like, you got to be consistent if you're going to start. It's like, I booked the time with you. We had to change it a couple times. And then even with that, like you get the person on Zoom, you set up all your equipment, you might have a technology difficulty. Like I always book people and I tell them like, give me an hour and a half of your time. I don't expect us to talk for that long, but it's going to be a good 10 minutes for us to get set up in the beginning and just like get the ball rolling. It's not like, oh, let me just whip up this episode and then I don't even do this myself. I'll be totally transparent. Forget the fucking audio editing. I give that to someone because I don't have time. That in and of itself is hours.
Yeah. So I think people don't see because they're not consistent, right? It is very crowded in the online space. But I don't think that doesn't mean you can't succeed. I think you need to stand out in the online space by having a niche. I think that is super important to kind of space yourself out for other people. And that means, like I talk about this all the time, a lot of my coaching programs, is you have to figure out who you are, who you want to serve, and then what are their struggles, their pain points, and how can you solve their problem? Because if you want to make money, you have to solve a problem, right? So you have to know what their problem is, and then you have to solve it for them. And then you have to be consistently talking about it and sharing it. And people say like, oh, people aren't buying my stuff. I'm like, well, are you talking about it? Do people know about it? Like you think you're saying it once and people are hearing you? No, it is, you need to talk about it over and over and over again. You need to be passionate about it. You need to be consistent about it, and you need to really want it.
No, I think that's so true. I think it's like really, I think a lot of people also, and I'm sure you have something to say about this, so I want to know, get so caught up in their followers and having tons of them that causes them to lose sight of doing the basics of marketing their programming accordingly.
Number of followers never equals like the money you're making. I'm sorry.
No, it doesn't.
I mean, you can if you're an OnlyFans maybe or something like that, but like
there you go.
Instagram is not like it used to be either. Like I have a client and friend who has over 500,000 followers, and she's like, back in the day, I used to make a ton of money on just posting. It is not anymore. It's
interesting. Is it because so many? I'm curious from her perspective. Is it because there's now? I have two questions with this, or two guesses. One, I would imagine, is because these companies have tons of people that they can go to for cheaper rates. Like someone could approach me versus her and probably pay me half the price of what she might have gone for. And then two, I would have to imagine that because Instagram has so many people on it, the level of engagement across the board is just lower because there's so much competing attention going on.
Exactly what it is, totally. And a lot of times, like they don't have people that have bigger followings doesn't mean that they have an engaged audience, right?
Exactly.
It's not about the quantity of it; it's the quality of it. Like, I have 100 people, only 100 people following me, and they loved me, and they bought everything I put out. I am making a lot more money than 100.
Yeah.
I'm all about coaching my clients to be engaged, put out real content, solve real problems, and then have people relate to you. If you're relatable, when people get you, they're going to buy your stuff, and you're going to have a lot more people in your programs. It does not matter what your followers are like, how many you have.
And what are your tips for your clients to encourage them to be more relatable, other than, of course, just really trying to be yourself and show up as your authentic self all the time?
Yeah, I just think give them a little behind the scenes, show your face. A lot of times people are new to it. Like, I don't want to show my face on it.
I hear that a lot too.
Yeah, a lot. I'm like, you know what? It's your job now. You have to, right? And it's just practicing it. I would say like get enough reps in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do it over and over again. You kind of forget it. But I remember, I don't know if you remember Periscope.
Yeah.
Okay, back in the day. And my one of my friends was on it and she was like, you have to get on it. And I was like, I don't want to show my face. I don't want to do that stuff. And I was like, and then now I look at myself, I'm like,
Oh, look at you now. Look at your profession.
one on my head. I'm like, I don't care what I look like now because I've done so many reps and that kind of stuff like that. So if you're new to it, I just say like, just try it, put yourself out there. Show a little behind the scenes. It's like a reality show. Like it's your own little reality show.
Yeah.
But I'm also like not a huge oversharer either. Like there's a certain limit that people don't want to don't like spam them with stuff. And then I also like, you are the expert, right? If you are the expert in the field, people are coming to you to learn something. So teach them what you know, give your behind the scenes, like how do you make a breakfast in the morning, but then teach them why you're making that breakfast. So just
don't just show the food. Yeah. Tell me more about that. Like why do you think that disconnect is there?
But I think a lot of times people don't understand strategy of it and they just kind of like throw content up there. But
to have something like to be present. Okay.
I talk about you should be having stories, solutions, sales on your story. I talk about the ways that we should have. There's like a science to how you should post stuff and why post things. You want people to. Again, the whole thing is like if you're trying to sell something, you have to show that you are the expert. You know what you're talking about, and you want to help people. You have a solution to the problem. Right? That's how you do it. So just posting my breakfast isn't doing anything for anyone. Who cares?
No. Like, cares. Oh, cool. You ate some bacon.
Right. So I show you like why I'm having protein in the morning with my fiber because I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to be more energy later in the day. They're like, oh, Sabrina knows what she's talking about. Let me follow her for a while. And remember, people are always watching. People might be buying from you right away, but people are watching you. So even if you feel like you're not getting a lot of feedback or people commenting on your stuff, don't quit. Like just you're in it for a long haul and like think about that ahead of time. It's like, okay, even if I fail or if I'm not getting what I want, I'm in this for a long haul because you'll start to see more people.
No, it's really, that's such a good point. Like I've like just now started to see that. And I would say that I've been hammering this idea for like a solid, let's see, like 6 months. And if not really over the course of 3 years.
I talk about like showing your personality quirks on Instagram, right? Like I look super Jersey, like I have big hair. Yeah. Hair straight side sometimes like really.
It looks great.
People always comment on it. Like that's my thing.
That's your signature. Yeah. Totally.
Yours is coffee, and like if you have to put that stuff out there so people can connect. Like, oh, I went to the coffee shop. Like we talked about Rook. Like that connected us so much, right?
Yes. Yeah.
How that connects people. So learning how to put that stuff out there. And again, if you're new to it, just take your time. It just takes reps doing it over and over.
Yeah. Like it took me so long. Like 2 years ago, I never would have told you that was going to be like my thing.
And that's what social media is made for, is to be social, right? Is like, you're not always there to sell. You're there to be social and connect people.
So what is your take on evolving platforms and, new like disruptors in the space with, of course, TikTok and then Instagram responding by adding reels? And then I'm also curious with that too, what your take is on LinkedIn, because I'm definitely seeing a lot of movement happening over there that I'm not sure people are picking up on.
Yeah. So I always say, know where your customer is, right? Where are they? So if you're trying to, again, have a business, and it's hard to do everything at once, right? So if you're new, I say find out where your people are hanging out and then hang out there the most. But you also need to be aware of the other platforms. So yes, I've been on LinkedIn for years. I post on there every once in a while. I'm not as active as I am on Instagram, but I am there. And now Clubhouse, right? So Clubhouse.
Yeah, Clubhouse is so cool.
So that's a new disruptor in the field. So you need to be aware of these things. I have some clients who are like, I'm just not ready for that. I can't even talk about that right now. I'm like, okay, fine. But you need to be aware of it.
Right.
And it is, you do get, we're rewarded for being an early adopter. So if those things are on there, try to hop on there if you can.
And what is your take on something like Clubhouse, even just as a marketer? Like, what is your perspective on the way the product launched with it being exclusive in the beginning? And I feel like, I don't know if you agree with this, but I feel like now it's pretty open. Like, I was a very early adopter of it because someone I knew invited me. And then it took like a solid 3 months before I started being allowed to get more invites. And now it's like, seems pretty easy for people to get invites. But what do you think about that as a technique for building a brand, because for them to build a brand?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's super smart, right? It's like, and I think I heard that there's only, I don't know if this is, they obviously probably added more people, but 2 weeks ago, they had like a big, something broke down, right? And a guy I know marketing, I was like, what happened? He's like, they only have 5 people working in the company. Like,
no way. Oh, I didn't know that.
So Yeah, so I was like, oh, okay, like that's, so I think like them, they probably didn't expect it to be blow up like this, but knowing like having that exclusivity, like I think is like super cool. People are like, oh, you need to be invited into it or that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah. And then I'm sure it's going to open up to everyone now, obviously. But
Right.
I think like that, who's starting out on it, and then if you're early adopter, you get to have these big platforms all of a sudden, and now everyone else comes in, and you're being pushed.
Right, for sure. And I'm just excited. You know, when I first thought about it, I didn't even think about like interacting necessarily with clients on it, because for me in my phase where I am in my business, I noticed that a lot of more executive individuals were on it in various fields. And so like I was in a room talking about healthcare and like paying for health insurance and mental health, and how like those like bills for cognitive therapy sessions and psychiatry are so expensive, and like how we're going to change that. And I connected with like two super well-known, very renowned psychiatrists that I literally never would have talked to in my life. As soon as I asked a question, I dropped in, dropped out. As soon as that Clubhouse meeting ended, one of them added me on LinkedIn. So it was like super cool to see how that connection got made. And then so for my perspective, I was like, oh, this could be a really interesting way to get an investor, because you could host a call, they could pop in. It also is really great for people who don't feel comfortable being on camera. That could be a very good way for you to practice kind of even like pitching things. Like they have rooms on there that are just like almost like Shark Tank, and it's like pitch whatever you want to talk about, or practice your pitch and let us give you feedback. You can get feedback from a total stranger.
Yeah, no, totally. I think it's definitely gonna be a disruptor. And again, like same thing, like not being on camera, having your voice is
Mm-hmm.
for a lot of people. I agree, totally.
Yeah. And what do you think about stories on Instagram? Because you were, you know, you've gotten to see the evolution of the fitness industry, and like you said, this being the year of the Fit Pro, I'm curious what you thought, like pre-stories being available and now them being like such a mainstay with Instagram, that I think people probably watch stories more than they even browse feeds.
100%. People have stories and they just flip through them. I mean, I do
Mm-hmm.
that. I hardly
Same.
scroll the feed anymore.
Yeah, same.
You still do need to post on the feed.
Of course.
Make sure you share it to your story. But the
Yes.
stories just give you like, it just gives you a way of like to interact with people, to get the behind the scenes, and you don't have to be so serious, right? It doesn't have to be perfect. Like your pictures on your feed have to be a little nicer and like a little, yeah, like branded more.
Right.
Behind the scenes, you don't have to have that. So, and it also is really great for selling, because when you're in people's DMs and you're responding to polls, all kinds
Mm-hmm.
of, it is great for market research. It's so great.
Right. Like see who responds to your poll.
It's the best for that kind of stuff. So I love stories. Everyone should be on them. If you're trying to sell a product, you should be on there talking about it all the time, doing polls, doing that kind of market research, and that's why you figure out your stuff out.
Similar to Clubhouse, forget platforms, maybe products or brands. Are there any that you can think of off the top of your head that you see as like emerging as really successful brands and names that have grown themselves through social, that are like kind of good for people to keep an eye on just to get an idea? Even like they don't have to be super popular currently, but maybe you see them as having a big trajectory.
I don't really
And I'm
know.
putting you on the spot.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to think of anyone. I think like there's so much opportunity. I think everyone can have a space there. Just really again about putting yourself out there, being consistent, and putting out good content. Like you need to put good content out there,
Mm-hmm.
and I think anyone can kind of rise above.
And what else do you constitute as good content other than consistency and frequency? Talk to me about quality a little bit. I know you touched on, you know, having nice photos and that sort of thing. Share with us the importance, for someone who might not know this, about making the investment, spend a couple $100 and go do a professional photo shoot with somebody.
Yeah, even now, like I just have to
Your iPhone is great.
all you need is
Get
your
your friend to
iPhone.
do it.
Get some lighting, invest in a ring light or
Yeah.
those kind of things, and do those things. I mean, the days have passed. Like I look back on my Instagram when I first started, I don't know, 2000, whatever. Like, ugh, who posted that bar?
Right.
Now, like, you can get a good filter, not overly filter, but you can
Right.
filter. You don't even need to spend a ton of money. A lot of photographers now will do like mini shoots, and you can get
Yeah, you could do for less than $100.
do like a mini shoot. You'll probably get 20 like pictures. Put that in some quotes, some talking, some other videos, and you're set for the month. And that's it. You don't have to put a ton of money into it, but it's cohesive. It looks nice. It looks good on the feed. Just that's quality.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And with that too, going back a little more to frequency and consistency, what are your recommendations that you make with your clients when it comes to them setting up things like a cadence calendar? Do you find that overwhelms a lot of people? Or is it a helpful strategy for them to get a little bit more organization around how they're posting, to avoid what you brought up as a potential challenge earlier of just like randomly posting shit?
Yeah, I teach about a content calendar and having pillars in your business. So like you have pillars in your business, like
Mm-hmm.
nutrition, fitness, whatever. And then under your pillars, you talk about either a story or transformation, you're selling, you're doing that things like that. And then you're posting those and putting that like a theme ahead of time, writing that out, posting minimum 3 times a week, 3 to 5 times a week on your feed, on your stories every day. And actually having that planned out ahead of time, having your captions planned out ahead of time so that you can not like be like, oh, what am I going to do today? What am I? It has like it come in but what you're posting, what you're talking about, what you're trying to sell, everything should match. So I
Mm-hmm.
definitely talk about having that plan ahead of time. I say like a month out or 2 weeks out, if you can just do that and plan it and then follow through on it.
Totally. And with that kind of idea of like not doing it last minute and helping manage your time, you personally as an entrepreneur, do you have any favorite scheduling tools or apps that you use for organizational management for yourself and then for you managing all of the clients that you work with?
But just a couple of basic things. I'm not so much like I don't think you need a ton of tools. Like I love Asana for product management. I use Acuity for my scheduling.
Nice.
I use Wave apps for any bookkeeping and invoicing. So and then for you can use Planoly for any kind of planning and stuff. But I also do an Instagram. I actually throw it into my drafts folder and throw it out there and share it.
That's
So
super, that's
that way too.
easy.
Yeah, you don't have to spend a ton of money, just some basic stuff like
Hmm.
I use Zoom, obviously,
Of
Zoom,
course.
that kind of stuff, basic stuff like that.
That's awesome. I love it. Okay, well, I want to be respectful of your time. So, one way I end all of my shows is with a quick little lightning round. And we just kind of run through fast questions. I don't plan any of them in advance. They tend to be thematically based on what came up in the conversation. And maybe I didn't get to dive a little bit deeper into them, but like 75 seconds left. And then we're officially done. You ready to go?
Ready.
All right. Favorite sports team?
Giants.
Nice. Great answer. What's your favorite go-to? It can be sweet dessert, or maybe you have more of a, I hate to use the word cheat, but maybe you're more of like a savory person. What's your go-to meal for that?
I love chocolate, any kind of chocolate.
Nice. Do you eat any sushi these days?
I do. I still eat it all the time.
Okay. What's your favorite sushi roll?
I love all kinds. I'm actually,
Don't discriminate.
no, I love all, I can like, you pick them and I'll eat them.
Do you have a favorite sushi spot in Hoboken or in the city?
Hoboken is Sushi Lounge.
Nice. I'll have to go there. Let's see what else. What is your least favorite workout movement? Whether it's like a class or a type of workout, or maybe just like a specific exercise that you just hate.
Burpees.
Okay. What's your exercise that you love?
Weight training.
Okay. What is your go-to breakfast in the morning?
Either eggs or I've been doing a lot of just like chicken and rice lately.
Nice. Hey, go.
Omelet, yeah, omelet.
Keep it simple, right? Yeah.
Avocado toast.
What do you think is the best skill or teaching moment or lesson that you gained from working in a box gym and having the experience that you had? Asking this because of what your parents had said to you about going to work for someone else first before you went the entrepreneur route on your own.
How to treat people.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a really good one. And if we're listening to this recording a year from today, where will Sabrina be? Whether that's like location or just, in your business and life and your career.
Well, so it's hard to travel now because of COVID. So next year, I hope to be in a sunny beach for a month or two. I want to be in Southern California for
Love it.
And my business still doing what I'm doing, just bigger and helping more people. Like I said, I just want to help more people. I want to help more fitness instructors make more money so we can help more people too.
Love it. Well, Sabrina, thank you so much. The very last question, of course, is I need you to give everybody your shameless plug. Tell us where we can find you. What's the best way to connect with you? And of course, as I mentioned at the top of the show, we'll be sure to put all of it in the show notes so people can just literally click.
You can head over to our website. It's sabrinasarabella.com.
Perfect.
Tons of stuff there. You can go under free stuff, and I've got a bunch of free things. I have a Facebook group. I have a lot of free trainings in there. It's called Fit and Wellness Pros Online Biz Builder. So if you're a fitness pro, want to learn something, go there. And my Instagram, Sabrina_Sarabella. I'm super active there. DM me any questions you have. I'm happy to speak to you.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. It was such a pleasure having you on the show today. And guys, as always, if you gained any value, any insight from this, maybe you're not in the fitness and wellness space, but you know someone, friend, family member, somebody who is, they would definitely benefit from hearing about this episode and some of the topics that we discussed on the show, or whether you just want to sell something online. I think like we've discussed today, there are tons of parallels and it doesn't matter the industry. A lot of the tactics are exactly the same to getting your face and your name and your brand out there. So please share it, spread the word on the FYX. And if you really loved it, leave us a review. This has been our latest episode. Sabrina, we have loved linking up with you today and hope that everybody has a fantastic rest of their day wherever they're listening from. See you guys later.